I'm not sure how to start this video, or even sure what I want to say, because I already set up my desk. I had all the lights on, and I was sitting at my desk, and I had a live mic hooked up, and I tried to make a good video with good quality and be more professional about it. But I ended up kind of rambling and ranting for 25 minutes. And that was with me keeping in mind that I didn't want to be talking too long. My problem is that I keep on trying to put in too much detail. I keep on trying to make sure that I express everything clearly and accurately so that people don't get the wrong idea and they don't think that I simply fucked up and, no, you didn't think of this or you didn't think of that. So with that in mind, I'm just going to say, trust me, I thought of it. Trust me, I have tried everything. I spent 3 hours trying everything. So here's the conclusion. I have owned a camera from every camera manufacturer, other than Leica or Hasselblad, right? I mean, I've owned Nikon, Canon, Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, Pentax, Ryko. I have owned full-frame cameras, APS-C cameras, micro four thirds, 1-inch sensor, micro censored. I've owned fixed lens cameras, interchangeable lens cameras. I've owned a lot of cameras. It used to be a problem because all I wanted to do was just find that one camera that fit me and clicked with me just right and did exactly what I wanted it to do. And it seemed like I was never happy. I was just constantly cycling through cameras. And eventually, I finally, after a lot of research and a lot of debate, I bought an Olympus E-M5 Mark II, brand new. I've had it for like 1.5 years now, and I love the camera. Well, I loved, past tense, I loved the camera. It was my favorite camera. It was the camera that could do anything. It was my ride or die. It'll do anything. I can take on the world with this camera. I can work magic with this thing if I need to. And then I realized a couple weeks ago, I've never checked for a firmware update. I think I'm going to check for a firmware update. And I looked online and there's a new firmware update and they talk about all these benefits it gives to doing video. And I don't really use my Olympus for video, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, so okay. I'd like to have those new features just in case. So I downloaded the new firmware and I put it on my camera. And again, I gotta keep this short because I'll rant. So with that in mind, the super, super short version of every single thing it did to fuck up my camera. Oh man, this is the part where I really want to just ramble on about every single little thing it fucked up, every single little thing that it changed, every single new option that fucks me up, an old option that I no longer have. All the difficulties, all the problems, there are so many. So what I'll just say is there are a lot. The camera is so different that it's like I'm not even using the same camera anymore. It has been nearly impossible in most cases to get the camera to perform the way it did before, to get it back to my own personal settings I had before because it reset everything. And now this new problem that I noticed today, because every time I use the camera I notice something else that's not the way it's supposed to be and I have to spend hours trying to find out how to fix it. Today I realized that the EVF does not display an accurate representation of what your photo is going to look like. The entire point of having an EVF is that even if you're in a dark room, if your exposure settings are right and the image itself will end up properly exposed, then the EVF is supposed to show you a properly exposed scene. That's one of the major benefits of an EVF. And by the way, this applies for the screen too. Using the screen makes no difference. I'm in a dark room and it shows me I'm in a dark room. The final photo looks fine, but in the EVF it looks very dark. I can't really see what I'm doing. And before anybody says, oh, you have the simulated optical viewfinder on. No, I don't. Oh, have you looked at your live view boost? Yep, checked all that. What about LCD brightness? Checked it. What about this? Checked it. What about... I spent 3 hours going through every single option in this menu, even options that had nothing to do with it, just so I know for sure that there was not some hidden option somewhere. Maybe it was worded funny so it wasn't immediately apparent, or maybe it was in a wrong place that it shouldn't have been in, and that's why I didn't find it. So to play it safe, I went through every single option in this menu, and no, there's no fixing it. For some reason, it only does its job and only performs the way it's supposed to if I'm in iAuto, which I never fucking use because I'm not a 14-year-old. If it's in any of the manual settings, full manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, any of that, EVF is junk. So is the screen, it's useless. It won't actually show me what my final image is going to look like, no matter what I do. I Googled everything, I tried different things, I'd set the camera down, I'd come back after thinking for a while. Eventually, I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to consult an expert. So I went to Olympus online, help thing, and there's a help center and you can ask an expert. And after I described the problems to what I thought was the expert, they let me know that they weren't the expert. They were just writing down the issues I was having, and then they were going to connect me to an expert. Okay, fine. But then once it sent me to the different page to connect to an expert, they let me know that they needed my credit card info, because before they would even start the process, they needed me to give them a $5 deposit. And then they let me know ahead of time, once you're done speaking to the expert and they've answered your questions, whether they answered them appropriately or not, whether they helped me or not, doesn't matter. Once they have answered my questions, I then have to pay an additional $23, or more like they're going to charge my card an additional $23. So $28 altogether, nearly $30, just for the privilege of asking Olympus what the fuck is going on with my camera. Not taking it to a repair center, not having them actually do any work on it, not having a real person hands-on with my specific camera looking at it and saying, this is your issue. Nope. Just me online talking to some nameless, faceless guy who probably don't know what the fuck he's talking about anyway. Just to have the opportunity to ask him what's going on, I have to pay nearly $30 fucking dollars. And that alone has convinced me that I need to say, fuck you, Olympus. I had never bought Olympus before. I was always convinced that there'd be all these reasons why I probably wouldn't like them. And when I finally bought this camera, I was kicking myself for not buying it sooner. I loved this camera. It suited me perfect. I loved everything about it. And now it's like it's not even the same camera. The firmware update has fucked it. Olympus has now used a firmware update that has completely trashed and ruined what was a perfectly good camera. And they want to charge me for the privilege of asking one of their experts why the fuck my camera doesn't do what it's supposed to do now. What's worse is that, I guess the lucky thing is that I actually had a whole cart full of their new pro lenses I was ready to buy. The 17 1.2, I was going to pre-order it, and I was going to buy the 40 to 150 2.8 Pro along with the 7 to 14 2.8 Pro. Like, I was ready to make those purchases. After doing all my research, I was convinced on the 7 to 14 and the 40 to 150. And then just because I've been wanting a 17 millimeter to walk around with, and that new 1.2 Pro is out, and the early reviews look good and the sample images look good, I was going to go ahead and treat myself with that. But now I'm ready to just ditch the fucking camera completely. So yeah, I'm going to post this camera for sale and just get into something else, anything else basically, because I'm not going to play this fucking game.